Okay, so some breaking news coming in the last couple of minutes or so, and it regards some big, actually really significant releases coming from WWE. I did a video earlier today, and I don't usually go live, especially at this time of night, but it's a big story, so I thought I'd talk about it here. I did a video earlier today. I was talking about the future of Kyle O'Reilly. And his contract's coming up with WWE in December. And I spoke about, there would possibly be more releases to come. There was a rumor floating around that more releases were coming. And I think it was first reported by WrestleVotes on Twitter that more releases were going to be coming. It's the thing. Every time there's a quarterly earnings call, there are these releases. And I mentioned before, why do they do it? They can dress it up as budget cuts. They can dress it up as whatever they want to dress it up as. Basically, WWE, all they care about is the bottom line. And when they do this big earnings call, when they report to their investors, their stockholders, whatever, we're doing so well financially, all that kind of stuff, they do it by getting rid of talent. And these budget cuts continue. And these budget cuts have continued today, and some of them are incredibly significant. And it goes to show that there is this culture at the moment in WWE that the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. These are the names so far. That we know have been released. WWE, as far as I'm aware, hasn't actually confirmed this themselves, but all of the reputable journalists online have confirmed this. So these are the names so far that we know have been released. We'll go into more detail in a second. But Franky Monet, Ember Moon, Jessie Kamea, Katrina Cortez, Jeet Rama, Oni Lorcan, Trey Baxter, Zadiah Ramia, Scarlett, B-Fab, who've just got caught up to the main roster, Gran Metalik, Lindsay Dorado, Karrion Kross, yes, Karrion Kross, Harry Smith, never even debuted on television after a signing. Nia Jax, Eva Marie, Keith Lee, and Mia Yim have all been released due to budget cuts. Yes, big names. Big names have all gone. I will repeat those names again. Franky Monet, Ember Moon, Jessie Kamea, Katrina Cortez, Jeet Rama, Oni Lorcan, Trey Baxter, Zadiah Remia, Scarlett, B-Fab, Gran Metalik, Lindsay Dorado, Karrion Kross, Harry Smith, Nia Jax, Eva Marie, Keith Lee, and Mia Yim, all released due to budget cuts. Shocking. Absolutely shocking. There are so many names in there that we will get into because it's some of them are just staggering. To be honest with you, some of them, I'm not going to lie, I kind of expected. Some of them I expected. When I saw that Franky Monet had been released by WWE, my initial kind of reaction was shock because she's only just signed with the company. I wasn't totally surprised knowing the direction that NXT is going in now. She's 37 years old. She's a veteran of the independent scene. She stood out like a sore thumb at the moment in NXT. But names like Karrion Kross, and to those people, and this isn't about me, and this isn't about Twitter or social media, but to those people that criticize people when they saw Karrion Kross lose immediately on Monday Night Raw after being undefeated for 18 months in NXT, never lost. Never. Showed up on Monday Night Raw, lost in 100 seconds to Jeff Hardy. To those people that tried to justify that, to those people that tried to justify Karrion Kross wearing a gladiator mask, wearing suspenders, changing the gimmick, changing his entrance, no Scarlett, to those people that tried to justify that and defend that, what have you got to say now? Let it play out. Right? Let it play out. He's trying to adapt to a different style. He's adapting to a different audience. It's an audience of one, and it goes to show, once again, like I've been saying, time after time after time after time, you have people running this company creatively, because they can talk about budget cuts, but make no mistake, if WWE thought that Karrion Kross and Keith Lee was valuable, they wouldn't let them go. They've let these people go today because they don't see anything in them. They're just not over, right? Karrion Kross, he needs something to get over. He needs to wear a mask. He needs to wear suspenders. He needs to dress like a gladiator. He needs to change his entrance. He needs something to get him over. He's missing something. Keith Lee, Keith Lee, are you kidding me? Keith Lee, I recall seeing him in NXT, and just some of the things he could do was unbelievable. And so everyone was so excited to see Keith Lee on the main roster. Survivor Series 2019, it's nearly 2 years ago, nearly to the day. At the end of this month, it'll be to the day. 2 years ago, Keith Lee tore the house down in the Allstate Arena with Roman Reigns. Yeah, Roman Reigns, you know, the biggest star in WWE right now. Yeah, he tore the house down. It was an NXT versus Raw versus SmackDown 5-on-5-on-5 traditional Survivor Series elimination tag team match. The final two people in that match was Roman Reigns and Keith Lee, and they tore the house down. I remember those reports at the time. Vince McMahon's fallen in love. He's fallen in love with Keith Lee. He's fallen in love with Keith Lee and the potential that this guy has. You remember in the Royal Rumble, just a couple of months later, Brock Lesnar's throwing everyone out of the ring. He's the WWE champion. Keith Lee's entrance music hits. Everyone's so excited because of seeing Keith Lee go face-to-face with Brock Lesnar. And people thought, you know what, Keith Lee, he might win this. Even though he didn't, the seeds were there. Oh, this guy's a megastar. This guy can be a main eventer. He's a big guy. Maybe he's not the look that WWE usually goes for. But once he steps into that ring, he's got a personality and he can do things that people can't do. And what did they do? When they called this guy up, who had, by the way, just won the NXT Championship and held it with the North American Championship, Triple H strapped the rocket to this guy and said, you go to the moon. They called him up to the main roster. What do? They change his music. They cover up his stomach. They make him wear a shirt. They make him wear essentially like these shorts that look like a skirt. They change everything about him. Then he gets sent to big man classes because he's got to learn to work like a big man, even though his whole gimmick is being limitless. They took the limitless away from the limitless one. And then they wonder, and when I mean they, I mean Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard, because again, it's 1985 right now, guys. Then they wonder, why isn't this guy getting over? He's missing something. How about he's missing everything you took away from him? You took away his identity. You took away his music. You took away his look. You took away the way he worked in the ring. You took away his gimmick. And then you wonder why he isn't getting over. It's the same with Karrion Kross. You took everything away from him that made him popular in NXT. This undefeated, dominating monster, Scarlett, all this kind of stuff. And what do? You took it away from him and go, why aren't people connecting to him? I wonder why. Because you took everything away. And they can talk about budget cuts. They can talk about whatever they want to talk about. It's just excuses. We can talk about, WWE's trying to sell the company. Maybe they are. But it doesn't change the fact that the treatment of talent is just garbage. And I've said this time and time again at this point. And every time I say it, I see people go, you're just being a hater. You're just being a hater, or you're an AEW marker, you're an Impact shill, all this kind of stuff. Why would you want to work for this company right now? Why? I understand money. I understand exposure. I understand people grow up watching WWE. I understand people want to work on a WrestleMania. I understand people want to be part of a Royal Rumble, or part of a SummerSlam, all this kind of stuff. But the way they treat talent, and I know this is nothing new, but the way they are treating talent at the moment is just vile and disgusting. It is. And they dress it up in budget cuts. And again, this is what's crazy as well. I see people get outraged because people are outraged. People see stuff like this, and people see stuff like Keith Lee or Karrion Kross getting released and going, seriously? You had something. You had something. You had people that were money. You had people that could actually make you money and could be successful, and you just threw it away. People get angry about that, and then you get these people that also respond to that and go, why do people always get outraged every time these people get released? It's part of the business. This ain't part of what normally the business is. I get it. People get released. People lose their jobs. It happens every year after WrestleMania. But the fact of how much this is continuing to happen right now, everyone in WWE right now, if they didn't know it already, they are expendable. Nobody is safe. Nobody is safe. And look, Tony Khan, he'll be listening. He'll be watching. Impact Wrestling, they'll be listening. They'll be watching. No, same Ring of Honor isn't around at the moment, but there are plenty of places to go and plenty of places that will be interested right now. And it's just, it's such a shame. And look, I get some of these names when they came out, like I said, they weren't a massive surprise. But some of these names, the Karrion Kross one, the Keith Lee one, And this is what's baffling as well. Some of these names, they're on the main roster or they're in NXT and they've just been repackaged or they're just getting in the middle of a push. B-Fab, she just got called up to the main roster. She just signed a new contract with the WWE, with Hit Row. How do those Hit Row guys feel right now? They got over as a package. I know B-Fab was late coming in, but they got over as a package in NXT. And what happens? They get called up to the main roster and part of the package is now gone. She's out of here. She's gone. Why? Because creative don't care. And then they'll say, oh, there's something missing. Why aren't you guys getting over? Because you changed it again. And again, it would appear that the people that are writing television or the people that are coming up with these creative plans don't have a clue. You remember Keith Lee as well? Saying, Bearcat Lee, whatever you want to call him, even though that gimmick, no disrespect to where it came from. I understand the heritage of it, but you put all of that time into it. All of that time, Keith Lee working dark matches. We've got to find the right gimmick. And Vince McMahon's very hands-on with this gimmick, and he wants to get this right, and he wants to get these tweaks right. He wants to make sure everything is right when it comes to this new Keith Lee character, right? So much so that he's gone in a couple of weeks. Karrion Kross, remember hearing that story as well? Karrion Kross. There's going to be tweaks to the character. He's still going to wear the mask and he's still going to have the suspenders and walk around like a gladiator, even though he looks stupid doing it. But he's going to be a sort of cool, calm guy, but still a psycho and a badass at the same time. Remember those stories? And it just goes to show these things change in WWE every single day. Nobody is safe. The creative process is flawed. It's broken. People have been saying this for years. Vince McMahon thinks everyone needs to have a gimmick, whether that gimmick is being called Bearcat, whether that gimmick is wearing a gladiator mask, whatever that gimmick is. Some of these people, Harry Smith, he signed with WWE earlier this year, never even appeared on TV. He appeared at a dark match before the first SmackDown when they were back on the road, did an interview backstage for social media. That was it. We never saw him again. Why? Creative process didn't have anything for him, all that kind of stuff. This is Groundhog Day. And it's every couple of months we're having to deal with this. I know that this is more often this year, but it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. You know, Eva Marie, I wasn't the biggest Eva Marie fan. I'm not. I'm not the biggest Eva Marie fan, but even that is laughable, really, isn't it? Because of the amount of TV time they invested into Eva Marie, right? They invested so much TV time into Eva Marie. All of those vignettes, all of it. And now she's gone. What a waste. And as a viewer, I had to sit through, if you add it all up, hours of television of Eva Marie coming back for her just to get released later on in the year because WWE doesn't care about storytelling. And then they wonder why the audience refuses to come back to continue to watch the show because constantly they're being slapped around the face saying what you're watching probably doesn't matter because we'll just get rid of them anyway. You know, you're emotionally invested in these characters. And it's dumb. It's absolutely dumb. And this is a company, by the way. They say budget cuts. Budget cuts is just BS. This company is more profitable and has more revenue than it's ever had. So what budget's being cut right now? The reason they're doing this is to make more money. Okay? More money. They have all of these deals right there. They have television right deals that are worth billions of dollars with NBC Universal for Raw and for Fox for SmackDown. And NBC Universal for NXT as well, which did get renewed earlier this year. They have $1 billion deal over 5 years with NBC Universal, so the WWE Network airs on Peacock. Lord knows how much money they make from those Saudi shows. It's outrageous. They make more from those Saudi shows than any WrestleMania, than any other stadium show they do, than any other show of the year they do. Those Saudi shows are so profitable. That's why they're going back. They're back on the road as well now, so they're making a ton of money with the live events, with the pay-per-views, with television. So they're making all of this money, let alone the sponsorship and the merchandise. And by all accounts, even though they haven't been selling merchandise for the last 18 months in terms of the live events because they didn't have any, they've still been doing very, very well in terms of merchandise online at the WWEshop.com store. So they're doing fine. They're doing fine. Maybe the share price is down a little bit, but that's because the economy is where it is. And yet WWE is making more money than they've ever made, and they're still letting go talent when they don't need to anymore. Why? Why not? Because who cares about talent, right? Who cares about people? Who cares about what their image is in the industry? Because people always want to sign for WWE. It doesn't matter about that. But the thing is, I think that will change. I do think that will change. I think if you're a pro wrestler right now, Mick Foley said it himself, and this is before Karrion Kross got released. If I was a pro wrestler right now and WWE offered me a contract and I had offers elsewhere, I would look at the other offers considerably. And this is a guy who's grown up watching WWE. This is a guy whose dream when I was a kid would be to be wrestling at WrestleMania or being a Royal Rumble or wrestling in SummerSlam or you name it. But right now, could you really trust the brain trust that is Vince McMahon, Bruce Pritchard, John Laurinaitis, and that WWE creative process? Could you trust Nick Khan with your career when he cares about the dollar way more than he cares about you and talent? Could you trust them? No, you couldn't. This is the same creative process as well, that the pitch to keep Adam Cole in WWE for him to re-sign his contract was to cut his hair and be a manager for Keith Lee. Keith Lee's been released right now. So if Adam Cole was still there, what would he be doing right now? He'd just be a short-haired guy with nobody to manage. Because heaven forbid he can't wrestle. He's too small. Because again, guys, this is 1985. It's Wrestling Challenges on the television. We've got Bobby the Brain Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon doing commentary. It's relentless. It's relentless in terms of just the... And it's not as if the television product is so great as well. Right, the television product for like Monday Night Raw, right? Monday Night Raw at the moment is just, and for years seemingly, just feels like it's so difficult to watch, because it's 3 hours and creatively it sucks. But this is meant to be the new era, right? The new era of Monday Night Raw. The season premiere of Monday Night Raw was a couple of weeks ago. Two of the names that were going to get pushed, Keith Lee, right? Bearcat Lee clawing his way to Raw. That didn't last long. Karrion Kross, he's going to be on Raw. That didn't last long. And what will happen is these names will go elsewhere. Keith Lee will go to... Look, Keith Lee can go to AEW and be the AEW World Champion. Karrion Kross can go to AEW, be the World Champion. Karrion Kross can go back to Impact Wrestling and do very, very well for himself with Scarlett. Plenty of these names will do just fine. Harry Smith can go back to Japan. He can go to All Japan. He can go to New Japan. He can go to AEW. He can do whatever he wants. He'll do just fine. And they'll go to these places, prove these people wrong. And this is what baffles me as well. This is really what baffles me as well. And I don't understand this too. So these names that have been treated like this, by the way, if they show up on AEW or if they go to like a Talk is Jericho episode or they go to Impact or they go to wherever, they'll go there and they'll say, yeah, it was bullshit. I was let go by WWE for budget cuts and the creative I was given on television sucked and all this kind of stuff. And you'll get these people that say they're so bitter. They're so bitter after everything WWE did for them. Oh, it's ridiculous. It's dumb. It's dumb. I see Todd there says, Owen, sir, nobody that got released is a draw. If you run a company, it's all about return on investment. They have the metrics. Until the ratings get up to 5.0s, dudes will get released. Well, the ratings ain't getting up to 5.0s, Todd. The days of that ain't happening, right? And yeah, maybe those names that were involved here weren't a draw, right? But you have to look at it in context. Like Karrion Kross and Keith Lee, what chance did they have of being a draw? Brock Lesnar wouldn't be a draw if he came out in a gladiator mask and suspenders every single week. He wouldn't. I'm not saying Karrion Kross is going to be Brock Lesnar, but at least give him a fighting chance. They wouldn't. It's dumb. It's dumb. The creative fails them. And this is what happens with people like this. WWE ultimately fails these people. The creative failed them. That's it. The creative fails them, and it didn't need to. They were trying to fix something that wasn't broken. They were trying to give someone a gimmick that they didn't need. And it's dumb. It's dumb, and it's WWE. This is what WWE does in 2020 and 2021. And as Mick Foley said before, if I was an up-and-coming talent right now, would I trust WWE to have my future in the palm of their hands? No. Of course I wouldn't. Why would I? Now, again, let's run through these names if you're not familiar with any of them. So Scarlett, of course, has been released by WWE. Of course, she was also known as Scarlett Bordeaux. She signed with WWE in November of 2019, was aligned with Karrion Kross on NXT as his manager, but did not manage him as he moved to the main roster. The Scarlett was a strange one because everyone... Remember that story as well? And this just goes to show this creative process again. Remember the story of the reason Karrion Kross is losing on Raw is because he's going to lose all of these matches, and then suddenly Scarlett's going to come in, and she's going to manage him, and suddenly he's become a badass. And actually, Scarlett was the missing piece. Remember that? She never showed up, released. Franky Monet, this is what's nuts. The former Taya Valkyrie signed with WWE in February 2021, debuted in NXT in April, challenged for the Women's Championship, the NXT Women's Championship, in September 28 on that episode of NXT. She last wrestled on the October 5th episode of NXT, losing to Cora Jade. She wrestled only 6 times. 6 times in NXT. And she's been released. Again, was I shocked by Franky Monet being released? No. I wasn't, because there are names right now in NXT that don't fit. Franky Monet is in her late 30s. She's a star on the independent scene. That isn't the demographic WWE's going for right now. And any other people that fall into that kind of mold, that were on the independent scene, aren't former NFL or NBA stars or whatever, fitness models, you name it, they're in trouble. They're in trouble. They are. But Taya Valkyrie, she can go back to Impact Wrestling and wrestle for the Knockouts Championship. She can go to AEW. She can wrestle for the AEW Women's World Championship. She's tremendous. And WWE's missed the boat on that one. Ember Moon signed with WWE in September 2015. Former NXT Women's Champion. Former NXT Women's Tag Team Champion. Last wrestled on the October 5th episode of NXT, losing to Mandy Rose. Again, in this new version of NXT, she didn't fit. Because she's a pro wrestler. And she's got a pro wrestling background. And she was trained by Booker T and came up in the Reality of Wrestling school in Houston. She didn't fit. She's an independent pro wrestler. And NXT now isn't about independent pro wrestlers. It's about athletes. It's about people that have the look. So again, she stuck out like a sore thumb. So see you later, gone. Oney Lorcan signed with WWE in September 2015, former NXT Tag Team Champion. Last wrestled on the September 28 episode of NXT, losing to Zion Quinn. Again, he's an indie guy. He's an indie guy, so he's got to go. Because he don't fit in the modern day NXT anymore. And I do wonder what Triple H thinks of this. Because Triple H, we know at the moment, he's still recovering, and hopefully he does recover soon. We know that. But he must just be sitting there thinking, what happened? What happened? I spent years building up NXT, and it's now NXT 2.0, and it's been gutted and all this kind of stuff, but the identity, NXT is full-on developmental. That we know that, but it's a shame. It really is a shame. Oney Lorcan will do fine. There's already been a lot of people saying that they want to work with him. He'll do very well on the independent scene. I have no doubts about that, but it certainly is a shame for him. I enjoyed his matches a lot. I thought his work with Danny Burch was great. B-Fab, this is such a strange one. Signed with WWE in August 2019. Last appeared on the October 29th edition of SmackDown in a backstage segment with Hit Row and The New Day. Yeah, last week. She was on SmackDown television last week. She signed a new contract with WWE last week. Gone. Why? You know, that one to me is just baffling. You know, I could get it if maybe they were still in NXT, but they weren't. They were part of Hit Row. They were part of the gimmick. And now they're gone. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. It's like the Aleister Black thing all over again. Or the Braun Strowman thing all over again. I'm not saying B-Fab's like Aleister Black and Braun Strowman. What I mean is, it's a case of, we're going to release this person. But they're on television at the moment. They're in the middle of a storyline, or they're building to a storyline. Get rid of them. No, it don't matter. What? And if you were a casual viewer, if you were someone that, you know, didn't really pay attention to pro wrestling websites or social media that much, and you just watched the product, 1 week B-Fab's there, the next week they're not, wouldn't you go, why? Why aren't they there anymore? They're gone. Now, some of these other names weren't necessarily super Shocking. Jesse Camilla signed with WWE in 2017. Last wrestled on the August 24 episode of NXT, losing to Raquel Gonzalez. These releases from NXT happen. Zendaya Rabia signed with WWE in 2021. Last wrestled on the June 1st episode of NXT, teaming with Zoe Stark against The Way. Trey Baxter, this one was quite disappointing to me, but again, I'm not totally shocked by it. The former Blake Christian signed with WWE in October of 2020. Last wrestled on the October 8th episode of 205 Live, losing to Grayson Waller. I was a big fan of Blake Christian from his time in Impact. He was doing really great stuff in Impact Wrestling at the time, so I was interested to see him sign with WWE. I think at the time he was going to be part of this revamped, big focus on the cruiserweight division. Obviously, we know that, like everything in WWE, plans changed, and now Trey Baxter is gone. I think he'll do fine, though. I think he'll go back probably to Impact or to MLW. He might even fit in AEW as well, but that one was a shame. These ones were not totally surprising, I suppose. Lindsay Dorado and Gran Metalik. Dorado's been with WWE since 2016. Last wrestled on the September 23rd episode of Main Event. Gran Metalik also signed with WWE in 2016. He had recently asked for his release, so I don't think he's going to be frustrated in the slightest. No disrespect to these guys. They're both very talented. Gran Metalik's great in the ring. I think he's so underrated. And he had a couple of matches. I think he had one against Rey Mysterio, which was great. One against Daniel Bryan on SmackDown, which was great as well. But those kind of names are the names that when they come up, you're not really surprised, it must be said. But they'll do fine as well. Katrina Cortez signed with WWE in August 2019, made appearances on Raw as Catalina in a team with Sin Cara, last wrestled on the October 29 episode of 205 Live. Jeet Rama signed with WWE in June 2015, last wrestled on the November 2nd episode of NXT in a loss to Solo Sikoa. And this is when the really surprising ones came out. Of course, Keith Lee signed with NXT or WWE in 2018, former NXT champion, North American champion, recently rebranded as Bearcat Keith Lee or just Bearcat Lee on Raw, had a new entrance or new entrance gear as well, and what happened? He's gone. At the beginning of this year, Keith Lee was wrestling for the WWE Championship against Drew McIntyre on Monday Night Raw. Remember that Legends Night episode of Raw when Goldberg came out? He was wrestling for the WWE Championship. Now he doesn't have a job. Now, Keith Lee, again, will do just fine. Keith Lee will be in demand because everyone knows the talent that Keith Lee is. And if anything, I look at stuff like this, and whilst it's frustrating and whilst it's just eye-rolling because, yet again, WWE misuses a talent that could have been so much more in that company, it's probably, honestly, the best thing for him. It is. It's probably the best thing for him because he will do better elsewhere. He will be in more prominent positions elsewhere. Again, I think he'll probably, to be honest with you, I think he'll end up going to an AEW because Keith Lee is one of those names, when they appear on the free market, you sign him because he's that talented. He can be a main event level talent. And I know people can roll their eyes at that. People say, oh, they're not over. They weren't draws. Keith Lee tore the house down with Roman Reigns, okay? Keith Lee squared off with Brock Lesnar and had a stadium rumbling, okay? Keith Lee's a star. Keith Lee's a talent. There aren't many people like Keith Lee can do the things that he can do at his size. He's limitless for a reason. Now, WWE or Vince McMahon might not have been able to wrap his head around going, this guy's just fat. Oh, he's just fat. He's just a fat guy. He's just got a belly. Because again, in his mind, it's 1985. And Bruce Pritchard might think the same thing. This is what's concerning, is everyone liked Bruce Pritchard when he came back to WWE because his podcast was fun, right? Something to rest with. That's fun. That's entertaining. There should have been red flags during all of that. Because if you listen to that guy's podcast, some of his opinions on things and some of his views on talents are so outdated. And this is a guy that he was in creative when creative sucked in 1995 and 1994. When if you watch an episode of Monday Night Raw from that period of time, it's awful. It was so bad the company nearly went out of business. Yes, there were other factors at that time, but you watch an episode of Raw from that period of time where Bruce Pritchard and Vince McMahon and Pat Patterson and all that kind of stuff are doing the creative. It was awful. It was so bad. I think Cornette was involved in that period of time as well. And when he came back in 2019, 2018, whenever it was, and people were like, oh, Bruce Pritchard's coming back. I listened to his podcast. I should have been a red flag. Because then John Laurinaitis came back. And that story, you remember that story that's come out this week or last week about Bray Wyatt? Vince McMahon didn't like Bray Wyatt towards the end. Why? Because he was complaining about creative. Because guess what? Creative sucks in WWE. It's bad. creative in WWE is having The Fiend feud with Randy Orton for 6 months, have him be off of television for 2 months because he was set on fire, come back and lose. What's the end game there? What's the story? The creative, it sucks. It's bad. And so Vince McMahon didn't like Bray Wyatt towards him because Bray Wyatt would call him out on it. The creative here, it sucks. It's bad. I don't like it. I don't want to do it. And then Vince McMahon, like I said, it should have been a red flag because Vince McMahon had hired all these people back, Bruce Pritchard, John Laurinaitis, people that were just going to say yes to him. Your idea is great, Vince. Keith Lee, no. Keith Lee, he ain't got talent. Don't listen to the people. The people don't know what they want. We know what they want. We know what they want way more than they do themselves. Don't listen to the cheers. Don't listen to people online. Don't listen to all of those. We know what gets over. What will get Keith Lee over is having new music, and I understand copyright stuff, but what will definitely get him over is we make him wear a singlet, we make him wear shorts. Oh, that isn't getting over as well. It's because you're doing too many flips in the ring. Remember when Keith Lee was like pouncing Adam Cole into the crowd and having those great matches with Dominik Dijakovic and all that kind of stuff? That ain't getting you over. That ain't getting you over. You need to work like a big man. Come to the Performance Center, work like a big man. That isn't working as well. Ugh. Maybe we need to change Bearcat Lee. Now you've got to growl in your matches because you're a Bearcat now. You've got to growl in your matches and you've got to... That's the new gimmick. Oh, you're still not getting over. It's a different audience. It's just dumb. It's just dumb. And like I said, Keith Lee can go anywhere and he'll be successful. I have no doubts about it. No doubts about it. Eva Marie, as I mentioned, returned to WWE in October 2020 with her debut coming in June. Last wrestled on the September 20 episode of Raw in a loss to Doudrop. Reportedly, she was written off of television to do movies, and now she's just never coming back. And look, I'm not the biggest Eva Marie fan. I thought it was very disrespectful of people that when those releases were happening earlier this year, people going, oh, so-and-so's being fired and Eva Marie still got a job. It's not Eva Marie's fault. She signed a contract with WWE it was towards the end of last year, and she was at the Performance Center for ages. It's not her fault. And in the same vein that some people might celebrate her getting released, I don't celebrate anyone losing their job. I don't. What I think is stupid is WWE spending months of television time and vignettes over and over and over again on a talent just to release them. Because it goes to show that they don't have a clue what they're doing. And they're just making this shit up as they go along. And hoping something sticks at the wall. If not, we'll just let it go. It doesn't matter. And you don't reward the talent. You don't reward the fans for watching. You don't. You know, it's stupid. It's dumb. Nia Jax's release, really surprised with this one. You know, despite her faults and despite her, reported being dangerous, reckless in the ring, whatever you want to call it, she's part of the family, pal. You know, she's part of the Rock's cousin. And look, WWE's serious about budget cuts when they're releasing the Rock's cousin. And I know it shouldn't really count for anything and it shouldn't matter, but WWE... It was crazy. Remember, this is Rock Month. They're celebrating the 25th anniversary of The Rock as well. We're celebrating 25 years of The Rock in WWE, and we're going to release his cousin during that period of time. Now, she was last seen on the September 20 episode of Monday Night Raw where she was taken out by Shayna Baszler. She was set to miss an undisclosed amount of time, but you felt like she was bulletproof, to be honest with you. Considering all the stuff that had gone on during her career, whether it's hurting Bayley, Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, Kairi Sane, the list goes on. And Nia Jax, a lot of people spoke about her time and time again, but still, it's a big commodity. What do I think she'll do in pro wrestling? I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know if I can see her working in pro wrestling, to be honest. I don't see her going to AEW. Maybe she might go to like Impact or something like that, but I don't know if I necessarily see it, but I was surprised by that one, definitely. Mia Yim signed with WWE 2018, participated in both Mae Young Classic tournaments, last wrestled on December 31st episode of Main Event where she lost to Nikki Cross. Hasn't even wrestled this year. Hasn't even wrestled in this year at all. And Mia Yim deserves better. She's a great pro wrestler. Again, I kind of look at that one and I just say, you know what, good. because I'm tired of being frustrated and looking at Mia Yim on the sideline being like, why aren't they using this person? Why aren't they using this person? I'd rather she was being used elsewhere. I'd rather she was free to work elsewhere. I'd rather she be free to work on the independent scene, or free to go to AEW or Impact Wrestling or NWA, or go to Japan, or do whatever. I'm more than happy for her to do that, because I'd rather her be doing that than sitting there doing nothing. She deserves better. She absolutely deserves better. And finally, Harry Smith Jr. returned to WWE in July, actually signed a contract with WWE in April, teamed with Austin Theory to defeat Odyssey Jones and Zion Quinn in a SmackDown Dark match, didn't even debut on television. And this is what's crazy about that, is I recall that apparently John Laurinaitis was really heavily pushing to re-sign Harry Smith Jr. There was reports he was going to go to NXT UK and all this kind of stuff. Didn't even debut on television, had nothing for him, just signed him. Why? Because no one knows what's going on in this company. It's $1 billion company, $1 billion public company, and nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows what's going on. They just look at talent like their names on a sheet and just tick them off. No, too much money, get rid. And Harry Smith, he didn't need to return to WWE. This is the thing as well. He didn't. He had interest from so many other companies. He had interest from, I think it was from AEW, from Impact, from the NWA, all of these companies, Japan, all wanted to sign Harry Smith. And I think eventually he kind of came back because he wanted to give WWE that one more college try. And if I were him, I'd be like, screw you. Just screw you. You just signed me just because you wanted, because you were scared other people were going to sign me. And in the end, you just let me go anyway. Because now I'm devalued, right? This whole situation is just, it's crazy. It's crazy. And again, I know there will be those people that, why are you being so outraged when people get released? It happens, all this kind of stuff. It's part of business and all this kind of stuff. It just, who wants to see anyone lose their jobs? Byron Briscoe says, why now? Because of the quarterly earnings calls. That's why. That's why. And it sucks. And a lot of people, obviously, heartbroken on social media talking about this. But they'll be fine. Like Renee Paquette's tweeted, seriously, they'll be just fine wherever they land. They will. They will be fine wherever they land. And it sucks. It really does suck. And I'm still shocked. Specifically, the Karrion Kross Keith Lee one. Even though they weren't being used properly, you just had the feeling that at least they'll know. At least they'll know what talent is, right? At least they can see these guys are talented. At least they can see these guys are over, right? And they can't. They just can't. And it sucks. If you are new to the channel, by the way, be sure to smash a like on this video. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. We got... it's dark. We got over 70 people watching, so be sure to smash a like on the video. Let's see if we can get up to 40 likes or something. If you are new to the channel as well, be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. We do daily videos talking about WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all that kind of stuff. So be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. I think we're on like 5.5 thousand subscribers. So always growing, always developing here on the channel. So I do appreciate everyone that's tuned in. Let me know your thoughts. If you're watching this that isn't live, we'll wrap this up shortly. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. As I mentioned, smash a like on the video. I'll speak to you again very soon. Obviously, if we hear any more about these releases, I'll talk about them in a video or in a live stream tomorrow.